of Barre, culturalism, on people coming from around the world to connect with this natural resource and take it to scale, to be the granite manufacturing center for Vermont, for this nation, with a tremendous heritage of workmanship and let's face it, hard work by families to build this city. And that work still goes on. And so we're really honored to be here with the next generation of people who are moving Barre forward as we think about some of the challenges and some of the opportunities ahead. We're in the middle of this process. Jenna's going to describe where we are, what we've done, where we're going next. But I want to say this is about the 80th process like this that we've done. We've seen communities pull together and develop daycare centers. We've seen them choose to redevelop 2 or 3 downtown buildings, line up committees, task forces, build plans, connect to developers, connect to the full panoply of state, nonprofit, and other resources. And we will, from this point, the decisions you make tonight, the hard work of tonight, we will bring a new team in. We'll be specifically focused on the priorities that you establish and think about the technical assistance, the dollar resources, the potential partners that could help lever those projects forward. But you know, no one comes from outside Barre with a cure for Barre or with the solutions to the challenges ahead. Real leadership comes from the community first. No one's coming from Washington, D.C. The power for change is in the collective spear point of your work, your decisions on core priorities, and your drive to move them forward. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The resources of the state, federal government follow those who are ready and lead. And so this process is all about that. We commend you for being here, for being on the line for Barre's future. We're really excited about the agenda for tonight because there's a lot of work to do. I'm going to turn it over to Jenna, who's going to begin to walk us through the process. But before I do, the last thing I'd say is thank you for your patience, both the people online with us and people in person. What a time we live in, right? Time where COVID has disrupted everything, has made us fearful about our children, has made our businesses challenged, terribly challenged. And the regular way that we live, our social interactions, everything is conditioned by it, right? And you're here, and you're online, and you're still thinking forward, not just about keeping things the same, but about what's next. What are we going to do in the next 3 years? How does this town change and move forward? And so it's an honor to be part of this process with you, to be dedicated to democracy and to action, and not action that's against anyone, but adds together the best resources of the community for the future. So thank you for being online for Barre. I'll turn it to Jenna Colossi.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. I think I might, before kind of getting into the agenda, I might just really quickly go through some logistics for the meeting. This is going to be a unique experience. There's about, I think there's 40 or a couple more people on the Zoom, a few more than that in the room. So we're kind of half and half. So we'll just have to be patient, make sure that we're hearing from everybody in the room, make sure that we're hearing from everyone on Zoom. And I'll just kind of go through how we're going to make sure that happens. And then we'll dig into the work of the evening. So one quick note for those of you on Zoom, and hello. So the best view of folks in the room is the CVTV camera, which I'm waving at here. And you can find All In for Barre on your screen. And if you pin that, then you'll be able to see us in the room much more clearly than all the squares on your screen. So you can find us on there. So we want to make sure that we're hearing from everyone in the room and calling on people in the Zoom. When folks on the Zoom speak, we'll be able to hear them through the speakers. So we'll hear them loud and clear. So people on Zoom, certainly speak up when we have the opportunity to. Nick over here is serving as the kind of Zoom and room liaison. So when someone raises their hand on Zoom, Nick's going to let us know so we don't miss anybody. And you'll be able to see who's speaking up on the screen here. So those of you on the Zoom, when you want to chime in and speak, you can use the raised hand function in Zoom. So when you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little box that says reactions. You can click on that, And then you can use the raise hand function when you want to chime in. So when you do that, then Nick's going to let us know that you're raising your hand and we can call on you. Also for the Zoom, and sorry people in the room, there's a few more logistics for Zoom than in person, but also on Zoom, we're not going to be using the chat tonight for a lot of content. We're kind of discouraging use of chat for back and forth because we want to make sure that we're kind of having the bulk of the conversation in discussion. But feel free to use the chat with Alyssa, who's on our team there, if you're having any tech troubles, if you're having trouble hearing, if you can't find how to raise your hand, feel free to let Alyssa know on chat there, and she'll let us know if there's any problems. Otherwise, we're going to want to keep the conversation to a discussion. So raise your hand and chime in. The other quick note is that closed captioning is enabled on Zoom, so feel free to use that. But you can also disable it on your own screen if you don't want it there at the bottom of the screen. Yeah.
Okay, whoever's on the microphone, can they take the mask down? I don't understand what you're saying, and that's why, yes, if you understand what you're saying, you can.
Let me ask, is that okay with the city? Okay. And I do want to say, I'm not sure the sound's going to be a ton better. The acoustics in here aren't ideal. So it's kind of what we're working with, but it might be a little bit better without the mask. Okay. We kind of played around with the sound and it's not perfect. I think it's actually more clear for the folks on Zoom. The other thing too I want to mention is that everyone's going to get a chance to vote. So later I'm going to describe how we're going to do that. When we get to the voting part later, everyone in the room is going to get a vote and everyone on Zoom too, but we'll get into that later. I think that's all the logistics. Okay, so getting into the meeting tonight. So tonight is all about reviewing your ideas from last month. So on August 25th, we had a series of forums with Barre residents, both in person and on Zoom, where people shared what are the assets, what are the challenges in these different topic areas, and most importantly, what are your ideas for action? So we've got a thick packet of all the ideas that folks shared in those forums. We also heard from on survey responses, both online and on surveys around Barre. So we got some great ideas through surveys. And then Nick and I went and met with a group of Spalding High School students and got their ideas as well. It's all lumped together, and we looked at all of that over the last month and did kind of a cluster analysis. There were a lot of little seeds of ideas. You know, you think about a forum on transportation and a forum on downtown vitality, for example. There's going to be pieces that add up. And so we did a little bit of that, and that's the ideas that you're seeing on the wall and on your sheet tonight. So first, tonight, we're doing overview and logistics now. First, we're going to actually take a quick step back and talk about a list of points of vision. So we'll get to that next. Then we're going to take a moment to review all the action ideas that are on the wall. We'll actually read them out loud together, so we have a chance to kind of hear them, reflect together. And then we're actually going to do a really quick vote. So right from that review, you'll have a chance to do a gut check, like of all these, I think 23 ideas, and you can let us know if we're missing any. We're going to do a vote right then down to 8. So you'll have some dots on the wall, you'll have some dots virtually, and be able to tell us of these, what are the ones that we really want to dig a little deeper into and have a deeper discussion around. So once we have the 8 up on the wall behind us, then we're going to spend a lot of time just discussing those 8 that are on the wall and hearing from all of you. What do you think is most important today? What's most actionable? What's going to have the most impact? Where are there areas of work that might be already happening today? So maybe there should be other areas prioritized. We'll have that discussion. We'll hear from both people on Zoom and in the room, and then we'll do a final vote. So we spoke with our chair, Renita, and we kind of discussed like what seems like the right number for Barre today and decided on voting to the top 3 priorities. And then what we're going to do at the end of the night is we'll take those 3 priorities, write them down on sign-in sheets, and ask people in the Zoom, and then send it out more broadly and ask folks in the community to sign up for task forces that would work on those 3 things. So that's the outcome we're looking for tonight is what are the things you want to work on today and who's ready to kind of step up and join with a group of neighbors and community members to get those things done. I think that covers the plan for tonight. Next, so I hope you'll all mark your calendars for October 20th. That's the final meeting in the process. So once we have those task force ideas and folks signed up, you can think of that next meeting as like the first meeting of the task forces to start to get to work on an action plan. We really want to, as facilitators, leave Barre not only with ideas for work that could be accomplished, but people ready to work on them and a plan for the next steps that should be taken, and a connection to resources that could help support that work, whether they're technical assistance or financial resources. Anything I'm missing? Team, logistics, plan? All right. So the first thing that we want to accomplish tonight, I'm just going to set this aside for a moment. And Paul, maybe you want to take the mic. So the first thing that we want to accomplish tonight, when this process began, we had a chance to sit down with a group of representatives from all different parts of Barre. So we had business representation, we had the mayor, we had city council representation, we had representation from the school and a student in the room. We had a kind of a diverse group of folks that helped us to frame this process, helped to pick topics for discussion. And we also asked them the question, would it be valuable in this process to include a discussion on vision points for the future of Barre? And they said that they thought it would, to kind of take a step back before we get into tonight, what are we actually going to do? Like before we get into what's the action, we want to just take a step back and say, as we get to this work, when this work's accomplished, what does that mean for Barre? What does the future for Barre that you would envision look like? So I'm going to ask you, and Paul's going to walk around with a microphone for very brief, kind of like one sentence vision points. At the end of this process, we'll take those vision points and they're going to be included in the final report. So we'll, in the next meeting, have a chance to vote and decide which vision points are right for Barre. But tonight, it's just a brainstorming session to get them out there as you think about what does Barre look like in 10, 20, 15 years? Anyone have a vision point they want to start with? And folks on Zoom, please feel free to raise your hand and chime in as well. We'll call on you to share your points of vision. Somebody like to get us started? When you think of the future of Barre, what do you think is important?
Vibrant livability.
Vibrant livability. Thank you. Yeah, Paul over here in front.
Allocating money to affordable housing instead of a larger police force. I think that would be helpful to house the people who have been waiting all this time.
Money to affordable housing. And there's somebody on the Zoom, and Nick, I actually can't read the names. Ann Gilbert, go ahead.
Oh, good. After school programs for youth to keep them, they have access to a lot of different activities.
Great. And so as you're thinking about vision points, I want to think really broadly as well. So after school activities is one thing that's up on the wall here for discussion, and we're going to get into all of that. But right now I want to think a little bit bigger, like, you know, what would that mean if there were after school activities? What would that look like for kind of a vision for Barre? Yes, so over here, Paul.
The origin of Barre was granite, right? Okay, and they got all these granite quarries and nobody's, you know, they can't work them no more because, so shouldn't somehow we work with the granite industry to involve the community? I don't know, I'm just arousing a question. You know, the origin of Barre was granite. So let's go back, you know, look at what we did or didn't.
So it kind of, if it's okay, framing that as a vision point, is it the community is connected to its history as a granite center of the world, something like that? Does that capture it? Okay, yes.
I've always been very interested in Barre's history, and I would like to see a history trail created through Barre. I'm thinking about QR codes on buildings, and I just saw on the web how to do a QR code. So I got one piece of it, but I just want not to have people drive through. I want them to stop and say, this is an interesting place.
So it feels like that second part is kind of the vision, right? Like this is a place where people stop and want to visit. So I want to kind of keep with that. The QR code is a great idea, but we might get into that as we discuss ideas a little more. But let's kind of keep it a little higher level vision for now.
We'll have to step towards me. A point of vision.
I can't seem to place myself just yet. I can hear what's being said. I wonder if I'm unique. I usually can find a place where the speaker is and listen and everything's all right. I can't find a place in this room.
Yeah,
Am I
the
the only
acoustics are
one?
really a challenge in the room.
Maybe try the phone.
What about right in the front? If you could hear us speaking at the same time? Yeah, the acoustics are a challenge.
Okay, you're saying you want more people to move into Barre, and the housing you're saying is too expensive, too elaborate.
Well, so, sir, we're not saying these. So these are things we heard from residents and forums, and we'll get into those that are on the wall. So at this point in the agenda, we're just going to discuss big picture vision points for the future of Barre, and then we'll get into that. Yeah.
So my vision for any place is a place that has pride in itself, cares about its history, and a community that cares for each other and does what they can to respect each other and to help each other out of bad situations. So my vision for the future is for us to have pride and to do what we can to help others seek that pride and be fulfilled in it.
Great. Thanks so much. There. Yes.
I would like to see a vibrant downtown.
Vibrant downtown. Others. Yes.
A community that grows individuals and helps them grow to help the community.
Beautiful. Thanks. A community that grows individuals and helps them grow to be part of the community. And our Zoom people are,
Oh, do you want to have to do that first?
you on that, Nick?
I would like to see all the community organizations and resources have, at least for now, since, COVID, a bi-monthly meeting to sort of figure out where all the funds and help is right now, like how we would get, clothing in some instances, how would we help with utilities, rental assistance, things like that, because some groups, we just don't speak to each other right now. So it'd be nice to see them all come together and work together as one.
Yeah, a community where those providers come together and work together in service to the community. Yeah.
I would like to see Barre become a place that people want to move to versus want to move out of.
Great. Thanks. There. Yes, Cody.
I would like to see Barre continue to move towards becoming a community that is hospitable and can handle the needs of housing and current workforce. I know this gentleman to my right here mentioned collaborating with the granite industry. Rock of Ages and plenty of other granite manufacturers are hiring, but we are lacking the affordable housing stock needed to bring in and to cultivate the next generation of workers.
Thanks, Cody. Vision. Yeah. Yes.
Are the Zoom people going to have a chance to weigh in here?
Oh, we can hear. Yeah, on Zoom, you were frozen on our screen, so we didn't know you were there. Whoever just unmuted, go ahead and weigh in.
It's Elaine.
Okay,
Go ahead,
four
Elaine.
of us. Yeah, this is Elaine Wong. So I picked up on several of other comments, and I'd like to underline some of them. A vibrant community where we take care of each other and steward our place.
Very nice. Thank you. A vibrant community where we take care of each other.
And
can go to-
steward the place.
Great. Thank you. And we're folks on Zoom, we're just working to pull you back up on the screen so we can see you. We can hear you and not see you, but we'll have you back up in a moment. Tess, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think my vision of Barre is to see Barre City and Barre Town become even more and more working together and seeing that we're all in this together, that the resources that each offers is good for everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Others in the room with us?
Yeah, okay, with contact with other people in other states, they call it Barre, Vermont. Go up to the bar. Okay, well, the elderly population doesn't want to go to the bar in the middle of Vermont. Just a remark.
Jenna, I'm going to go ahead and call on someone. We have Byrne on Zoom.
Oh, thanks, Alyssa. Yeah, and we have people raising their hand in the room too. So let's go back and forth. Go ahead, someone on Zoom. Vern
Hi,
or Byrne?
I want to second what Tess had to say about Barre City and Barre Town working together for the good of everybody. And the accessibility issue that we have here with sound, I'd like to see Barre City become a lot more accessible.
Great, thank you, Byrne. And now in the room,
in every way. Thank you.
I would like to see Barre as a community that offers a high quality of living for all of its residents, regardless of income and socioeconomic status.
Thank you. Alyssa, is there someone else raising their hand on Zoom?
Yep, we have William and Sharon.
It's William. And I basically would like to see Barre unite against the otherization that we are seeing throughout the nation. Where basically a uniting of the people together and not attacking people based on being the other, so to speak.
Okay. Okay, so folks on Zoom, a quick announcement. We're gonna disconnect from Zoom for a moment so that we can pull you back up, and we'll be back in a second, but Alyssa will stay there, so you'll all be in good hands until we're back. All right, someone in the room, a point of vision for Barre. Let me make sure, it's someone that hasn't had a chance to share yet before we go back? Yeah, go ahead, and I'll come back to you. No, it's okay.
I think given that we have the Barre Opera House as a huge resource here, it definitely makes sense to start shaping the vision of it being more of like an arts hub, because I think there's a lot of potential there.
Great, thank you. You're saying with the Barre Opera, seeing the Barre Opera House as more of an arts hub and some more potential and opportunity there. Other points of vision? Let's come back to you.
I would like to see more community events as, you know, COVID sort of goes down, like how we're having the festival coming up and maybe more music festivals. I've noticed a lot of people coming together over at the park on Thursdays for like live music and things like that. But it's just sort of nice to get everybody kind of out and together, and then have it centered around some of the businesses possibly. Like there's some models like, say, like I used to live in New Jersey, like Denville, New Jersey.
All right, I lost audio team Zoom. Hopefully they're going to pipe us back in a minute and they're not all listening to us in the auditorium, but thank you all for being here and for rolling with the punches. We really appreciate it. And we do have online voting for all of you, so you can participate. Again, if you're having issues in the chat, you're good. I do know someone's calling in on a phone, and we do have options for you to participate too. So thank you all.
All right. Thanks guys for figuring that out. I want to make sure we get some Zoom voices in here as well. It looks like Ann Gilbert has your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think continuing to make a healthy community a priority. Really thinking about what would improve the health of all the, all ages in the downtown, whether it's some of the things on the list like the bike paths and, access to good food and reduce substance use.
Great, thanks so much. Carl.
Yeah, I was thinking, my vision for Barre is that people feel connected and like networked into communities that are important to them, and that no one lives in isolation.
So Barre's a city that feels connected. People feel connected into their community. Others on the Zoom before we move on? Not seeing any. Last points of vision in the room. Oliver and, or okay, here first, then over here.
See, I would definitely echo a lot of what I've heard. Housing, better response housing wise, more vibrancy for sure. One thing specifically that comes to mind though is food access and walkable food access, walkable grocery stores. Yeah, I don't know if that's very big picture, but I think it's really important.
Yeah. So that was a city with adequate food access, especially walkable in the downtown. And you had a hand over here?
I think the most successful communities have a really big free recreational component to them, where there's a lot of outdoor activities, and I'd like to see us make use of the river and do some kayaking and some activities and festivals along the river and use our parks. And as Nancy Wolf had said, have that, like a trail that people are encouraged to walk to.
So, and we'll get into some of those kind of more
Yeah,
detailed
but to
activities as we
recreation as a
discuss.
part of a strong community vision.
Great, thank you. Other vision points on the Zoom before we go forward? Yes, sir.
We need a grocery store. I mean, everybody saves their energy to go grocery shopping. And there's no energy wasted in Barre on the sidewalks.
Yeah, and again, that's one idea that's on the wall here, so we're gonna get into that. But any last big picture visions for what you would like to see in the future? Yes.
I'd like to see Barre be a place where young families, people would like to bring their families and raise their children and stay here.
Great, thank you. Paul, behind you here.
I think electric bikes are going to be a lot more popular in the future, and there's a lack of connectivity to get safely from here to Montpelier, where a lot of people work. I've ridden the road, and it's pretty terrifying. So it'd be nice to have a bike path that connected us to Montpelier and Montpelier to Barre.
Improved bike connectivity between here and Montpelier.
I think success will be achieved when difference is celebrated in Barre and embraced. All
city where-
cultures, all backgrounds, all everything, so that when new people think about where they want to live, they see a place that embraces difference.
Great, a city that embraces difference. Thank you. Last points. So maybe we go ahead and move into getting into the action conversation. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Paul to review action ideas together. So you want to get out those white sheets in front of you, and we're going to look at those together. And on Zoom, we'll be pulling some slides up on the shared screen so you can follow along with us.
And I think I'll just use this mic. Boy, this mic doesn't ring quite as much.
Really?
Maybe. And I'll walk with it into the crowd so that people can do this with us. What we'd love to do is, because like we heard nine different sessions, an hour and a half each. It's 13 and a half hours of testimony from people from all walks of life in Barre. Jenna described that we did a cluster analysis of everything we heard. We have like 30 pages of dense notes. And we looked at themes that rigged from spot to spot in those conversations. We tried to add them up as much as possible using the words of people from Barre to tie them up as ideas for potential action. These aren't our ideas. We don't endorse them. We don't know which ones of them are best for Barre at all. Some may be good, some may not be good. Some may already being done or almost completed. And so we're not pretending we know all that. But what we want to do is get on the same page to have like the picture of what we heard together. And so we're wondering if we could quickly go through these, and really quickly, and read them together. Okay, so that we all hear them together, we all get on the same page. And I'm going to start with folks in the crowd, but we'll be ready to tee up and go to the folks on the internet in just a second. Is there someone who'd be willing to read the first one? And you don't have to be for it, you're not endorsing it, we're not building a committee, we're just reading it. Thank you, Renita.
Improve public transportation. Identify and promote ways to increase public transportation options, such as partnering with GMT to expand routes and frequency, or to develop a Barre circulator route modeled after the Montpelier circulator. Explore and develop creative alternatives, such as a local ride sharing model. A task force could focus on transportation for the Barre workforce, but also transportation to recreation and youth activities. A bus pass for students could help to improve usage among youth.
Thank you. Someone willing to read the next one?
Start a Barre Housing Task Force. Many residents see a crucial need for more affordable, safe, and quality housing for people of all ages and income levels. A housing task force could expand housing options, encourage and support home repair, and improve tenant and landlord relationships. The group could identify ways to support and answer the needs of tenants while also helping to connect landlords to resources and financing. Additionally, the group could explore and develop innovative housing models and solutions such as co-housing or the development of a housing fund that could support home ownership and repairs.
Thank you so much. Who would like to read the next one?
Improve and expand pedestrian and bike infrastructure. Improve walk and bike infrastructure to make downtown Barre safe, accessible, and enjoyable for pedestrians and bikers with bike lanes and paths, bike parking, and sidewalk improvements. Work could focus on safe walk and bike routes to school for Spalding students, as well as others visiting, working, and recreating on Barre roadways. The group could explore traffic calming and slowing solutions that could improve safety and reduce traffic noise. Residents are interested in bike paths that could connect to Montpelier, the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, the Cross Vermont Trail, and to the schools and recreation opportunities.
Thank you. Someone willing to read the next one?
Improve and expand pedestrian and improve downtown aesthetics and vibrancy. Identify ways to showcase Barre's downtown through public art, pocket parks, beautification, tree planting, signage, and more. The group could identify ways to integrate public art, beautification, and gathering places across the city, especially in historically underserved neighborhoods. The use of art, color, and gathering spaces could help showcase the city's beauty, build unity and pride across the community, and attract locals and visitors to downtown shops and restaurants to support local businesses. Several residents pointed to new Barre welcome sign as another strategy to attract and welcome visitors to the city.
Expand community events, promote current event offerings in a central communications hub, and plan an annual series of local events that could help to unify and connect the community. Events could include an expanded and reinvigorated Barre Heritage Festival, indoor and outdoor concerts, and community or neighborhood block parties and dinners. Events could help to bring vibrancy, energize and engage youth, and celebrate Barre's rich history and culture.
I remind folks that we all need to be wearing our masks by public ordinance here. And who would be next? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
A task force could form that would focus on building a more welcoming community for newcomers to the city. The group would create a welcome wagon to share informational materials that orient new folks to the town and build a list of locals who are willing to match with their residents and to be a liaison as they settle into the community. A task force could concentrate on strategies internally to build a more safe and welcoming community, such as creating and sharing equity and inclusion trainings and sharing a more positive and caring reputation for the area.
Thank you. Are there people online ready to?
I assume so. Nobody's hands up, so we can just ask.
Is someone online in the Zoom want to read the next one? People might want to raise their hands if they're interested in being in line for that.
I will.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Advanced career training and workforce development. Identify opportunities for career advancement and ongoing education for youth and adults. This could include developing training opportunities in partnership with area businesses and manufacturers, free community workshops, and creative work-based learning opportunities. A task force could focus on celebrating the trades and sharing opportunities in the trades, especially with youth. A Barre Academy program could be developed that offers a series of community-based education over the course of the year, free for all people of all ages to participate.
Thank you. Is there someone else on the Zoom who'd like to read the next one?
I'd be happy to. This is Carl.
Go for it.
Expand access to childcare and after-school programming. Access to affordable childcare and after-school care and activities is a challenge for many in the Barre community. A task force could form to focus on this challenge, identify gaps, and find ways to meet needs and reduce barriers. The group could explore options to expand current offerings, develop new childcare and after-school options, and find ways to help address staffing challenges.
Thanks so much. Someone in the room want to read the next one? Sir.
Develop a community center in Barre to serve as a gathering and event space, after-school hub, a community kitchen, youth center, potential child care site, and more. The space could help to connect across generations, provide a safe space to go after school, and offer activities for people of all ages.
Is there someone on this side of the room that would be willing to read the next one? Okay.
Start a senior advisory council. A senior advisory council could form to share information on activities and services for seniors, advise city council on senior matters, and help to build events, connection, and communication for seniors. The council could utilize and partner with the senior center and find other creative ways to connect seniors to each other and to others in the community, and to make sure seniors have what they need to thrive in the community. Additionally, the council could work to build a yellow page resource for seniors that provides printed information on businesses, resources, and activities rather than all online.
Thank you. Is there someone online who'd be willing to read the next one?
I can.
Go for it.
Expand wraparound support for community members in crisis. Build a cross-sector and inclusive group of community members, emergency services, and service providers to improve integrated and collaborative support for people experiencing mental health or substance use crises. The group could work to identify ways to better connect and offer care in an integrated and wraparound way that supports those in crises and their families. This could include an expansion of circles of support, regular sharing across service providers on challenging cases, better connection between emergency services and mental health support, or other ways to ensure that people have what they need to get through challenging times and recover in a supported and safe way.
Thank you so much. The next one on energy.
I can do that.
Expand alternative energy and efficiency. Identify ways to improve weatherization and efficiency in Barre and help expand alternative energy in the city. This could include helping residents understand and access existing resources to find creative models to bring alternative energy, such as community solar. A task force could also look at Barre's existing infrastructure with an eye towards resilience and explore public access to heating, cooling stations, water features, and green space.
Thank you so much. Yes, Nick. Go for it, Karen. Karen Hatcher, go ahead.
I got it. Thank you. Advanced shared equity and inclusion goals and actions. Community members could come together with representatives of key city organizations and leadership to develop shared language, goals, and action for a safer and more inclusive Barre. The group could work to integrate and expand existing efforts and could implement strategies such as bringing equity evaluation to all city and community institutions, bringing reading against racism to the schools, consulting with ADA and accessibility experts to improve access to public process, or holding citywide discussion groups or shared learning opportunities. A Citizens Leadership Academy program could invite cohorts of residents to better understand and engage in equity and inclusion work locally.
Thank you so much. Is there someone on the Zoom who would like to read the next one?
I can do it.
Go for it.
Expand emergency housing options. Work with area experts, providers, and stakeholders to develop safe and accessible housing models for those experiencing crisis, such as a warming shelter, safe house, or other emergency housing for those whose needs aren't currently being met. Additionally, the group could develop longer-term housing for community members in recovery.
Thank you so much. Someone willing to read the next one?
I can do that.
Okay, go for it.
Support and connect young families. Build a program that reaches out to and connects Barre residents with young children. The program could build social connections as well as help connect new parents to the support they need to be successful, including early education and care, resource and assistance, and education.
I'll read the next one. Boost innovation and entrepreneurship. Many residents identified strategies to boost creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, that's a word, as a key strategy to fill downtown vacancies, improve economic vibrancy in the city. A task force could implement a set strategies to attract, support creative entrepreneurs, startups such as developing a co-working and makers space, offering pop-up shops, workspaces in vacant downtown buildings, and sharing and celebrating new businesses' creative ideas. The group consider an innovation fund that would draw philanthropic dollars to support creative startups, artists, and events.
Thank you so much. The next one, Nick. Ann Gilbert.
Expand substance use education. Work with existing providers to expand education on substance use disorder, both with youth and with the broader community. Some opportunities could focus on prevention, while others could help to build a shared understanding in the community around the challenge of substance use and how to best support those in crisis or where to turn for help.
Thank you so much. The next one.
Sure. Improve river access. Celebrate the natural asset of the river and improve points of access for canoeing, kayaking, and swimming. This group could also work to expand educational opportunities around the river, both for school-age children and for adults.
I've got to turn my thing over. We're in the home stretch. Who would like to do another one? Thank you.
Address safety in Barre. Many residents expressed concern about their safety in Barre, especially after dark. This was shared by folks of all ages and backgrounds, but especially by youth and people of color. A task force could form to explore strategies that would help to improve the safety of Barre community members and businesses. This may mean addressing loitering and criminal activity, but also could focus on traffic safety and walkability, especially with so many students walking to school. The group would work with key community leaders and partners to work together towards a safer and more welcoming downtown.
Thank you so much. The next one.
Attract or develop a downtown grocery store. Revisit and build on past efforts to bring a small, convenient, and affordable grocery store to Barre. Residents share a need for a place to buy basic grocery needs that is walkable and affordable. A group could either work to attract a business to the community or look into creative business models such as a cooperative or community-owned business to make this long-time goal a reality.
Thank you. Someone willing to read the next one? Thanks.
Start a youth council. A youth-led council with other community representation could form to boost youth engagement and leadership in the community. The group could help to better integrate youth voice by playing an advisory role in weighing in on city decision-making.
Thank you. The next one?
Improve and celebrate Barre's identity. Many residents shared a concern regarding how Barre is perceived to outsiders and how that impacts community pride and ownership. A task force could form to work with the full community to renew, revive, and strengthen a Barre identity, that is inclusive, vibrant, and positive. The group could bring voices together from across the city to celebrate Barre's culture and heritage and work together towards a clear identity and vision for the future. The group could then work to share Barre's story and improve reputation among visitors and work to rebuild and renew a shared pride in the city and opportunity into the future.
Thank you so much. And the last one, is there someone online that would like to read that on the Zoom?
Create a Barre communications hub. Build a central online hub where information and events are shared with the community. A central location and calendar could help to reach more community members in city events and news and deepen participation and engagement. In the long term, the group could explore options to staff communications efforts.
Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for participating in that. Is this still on? Okay.
Maybe just stick with this one.
Right. No, that was the one I was using.
Hello.
Okay. So let's look at, yeah, I will. Let's look at our agenda. We've come through the logistics, point of vision brainstorm, reviewing the action ideas. We're still in that. We have a couple bullets under there. We may have missed elements. We may have made mistakes. I noticed identify should be identities. There's a couple little glitches in there which we'll fix. But did we miss anything major? You know, this is basically not our ideas and not our like strategies for what we heard, but it's really trying to reflect back to you honestly what the discussion was in the community. Can anyone think of anything very big and broad that we've missed in this rather than details? Sir.
There is a new development off Prospect Street, and I haven't been able to ascertain what it's all about. And I was hoping somebody here might boil it all down and tell us what's happening up there. It's a new educational facility.
Okay, a new educational facility is being built on Prospect Street. Off Prospect Street. Yeah, come and see that woman there later. But we're really not, it's not an informational meeting, so we're not going to go into details for that. Is this working? Now it's working.
You may have to hold it a little closer to your mouth.
Yeah, I can hold it right up.
On again. Whoa, okay. So are there other big issues that would have been on the floor last week that we, or last month, that we may not have gotten on that? And I'll come right over there, Mary.
So unfortunately, I couldn't be there last week, but the theme that we always talk about in Vermont in general is the lack of connectivity and internet and all of that. Did that come up at all in Barre as a, you know, as a vision to improve connectivity and access to internet at all?
I don't think we did hear it. It would have been written up. We certainly hear it all over the state.
Yes. All right. I have to get on this call.
Okay. So unless you're proposing we put it up, it feels like most people must have access one way or another, though it may be difficult to afford. Well, okay, after the Zoom. Anything we've missed?
So I hear about mental health and substance abuse, which is a big issue, but I don't hear anything about other accessibility issues, such as like, you know, downtown infrastructure is great because, you know, sidewalks, you know, for people that use mobility devices. But I always think of accessibility into businesses and municipalities and just regular accessibilities for people that are elders and people like me who have physical disabilities.
Thank you so much. So I wonder if that's an idea that would fit under that walkability initiative, which would be that if a group was forming to look at those issues, they should also be really diligent at looking at accessibility issues, or does it need to be a completely separate issue?
I personally think, we do have an ADA committee, which is amazing. I'm biased. I'm biased, but, but I always think, maybe it should be walkability and also looking at, we don't look at stores or we don't look at apartments. We don't look at, just, people that are developing buildings.
Okay, so is that, I guess I'm wrestling with it, whether that's a new issue or what.
Under the shared equity and inclusion goals, it does reference consulting with ADA and accessibility experts to improve access to public process, it says.
Let's make sure that we address that with language in that point that talks about access to the streetscape, to stores, and to other services to look into the accessibility issues. Which one was that under?
That was an advanced shared equity and inclusion goals.
Advanced shared equity and inclusion goals. Yes.
Can't see you.
Okay, someone's on the line, and who is that? Joanne Reynolds, go for it, Joanne.
Yes, I have my hand raised.
Yes.
I do think that in a number of places I see make downtown Barre safe, accessible, in particular, the expanding pedestrian and bike infrastructure. I think we should revisit these and make sure that we're talking about citywide. Downtown Barre is important, and we do want to infuse downtown Barre and make it come alive again. But when we talk about walkability, we're talking about the entire city. When we're talking about traffic calming, we're talking about the entire city. When we're talking about people driving the speed limit, we're talking about the entire city.
Okay,
not
I
just
see
the
everyone in
downtown
the
area.
room. I see everyone in the room nodding. So we're going to include that understanding that even though they concentrate on the downtown oftentimes, we're really talking about these issues citywide. Thank you. Other things that we may have missed, and I'm going to ask people to be very brief because we've got a lot of business to do. Sir.
Sure. I mean, it's mentioned on here for welcoming new community members, but nothing is mentioned really on retention of people. We have seen a large decrease in the number of people here. It was already mentioned tonight about things to do for people here and keeping them here rather than leaving for other locations.
So would you build a task force designed around that, or would you add that into a task force mission around reaching out to attract people and retain people? Would you?
I think it can just probably come out organically through the conversations tonight.
Okay, thank you. Other folks with a new idea that we missed last month that didn't get on the list for priority?
Looking for energy in Barre, and 90% of them smoke cigarettes. And for that reason, they don't have no more energy than they need. Smoking cigarettes is the thing that brings Barre down. I mean, everybody in Barre smokes, whatever.
Okay, good observation. Yes, ma'am. You'll have to come to the mic.
Oh, sorry. We keep talking about identity and being inclusive, and we're talking a lot about the city, and we're not recognizing that we are an entire community comprised of the city and the town. And I think that there's a lot of culture and history there as well that we need to be including.
Yes, and anyone from the town that wants to participate is welcomed. And from the very beginning, they were welcomed. The town as a unit didn't choose to be part of the process, but it's a good point. So the point is that people from the town are also part of the larger community. Yes, who is it? Amy, do you have another issue that didn't make it onto the wall or onto the sheets?
I think so. Building a little bit off what Joanne said about not just focusing on downtown, I think there needs to be some aspect of looking at infrastructure upgrades in other parts of the city. You might think of places where we may be getting federal and state money to work on infrastructure projects, and there may be parts of town that need, they need the road paved, might be what everyone sees, or the sidewalk. They may also need the water and sewer upgraded underneath. And if we're going to tear up a street for one of those, we should try to do a lot of those. I'm particularly thinking of areas that are mixed use, so both residential and business areas, like start with the zoning maps that were updated a few years ago, multi-use areas. Personally, I have a bias towards areas like Berlin Street and Blackwell Street that are near me, but areas that are already zoned for both and could have more residential development and more business development, and just
So do you think
it's where we can work with infrastructure projects that are going on the next few years.
So essentially, this list is a list of ideas that could potentially have a task force develop around it. Do you think that an infrastructure outside of the downtown task force would be one of the things that should be considered then? So it should go on the wall, Amy?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a separate idea or if it's built into the other ones. And I'm sorry, I wasn't part of the meeting last month.
That's okay. Well, if you come back to certainty, come back to me. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to address something that's another pandemic during the pandemic is domestic violence. And me being a survivor, also just starting to work with other women that need shelter, immediate shelter, and to possibly maybe house us all together. Because right now, it leaves us vulnerable when we're mixed with a mixed population and our abusers are easily able to access and hurt us. If there would be some kind of housing that's just for us, because all the domestic violence shelters are full. And we are very vulnerable without any of these other protections that Mosaic or Circle afford. There's too many of us.
Okay. Should we add something on the wall that says develop shelter for additional shelter for abuse, for people who've gone through abuse? Okay. Okay. Let's add that on the wall then. Jenna's writing it down. You'll have to follow her. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, I believe for that, we could probably add that as an addendum under the expand wraparound support for community members in crisis, and maybe specifically say that there has to be a literal increase in facilities available. We could probably put that under there.
So let me describe a little bit about where we're going. We're in this process, what people who were there last month remember, we're not voting city priorities. We're not making official decisions that bind the municipality, right? We're not voting budgets. We're not saying in this vote that the city has to build a new shelter. We're saying that these are ideas that we think are important as the city and as the community in terms of all of its residents think are important as we move forward. And essentially through the course of the evening tonight, we're going to say, which of these things do we want to stand up and get started on? And we know that if the city and the community, there's a limited number of volunteers and there's focused energy that's necessary to drive any of these forward, right? You can't do 30 things, and if you try, you'll probably fail at all of them, and it will be demoralizing. So what you're really trying to do is say, of all the things on the table in front of us, which ones do we have the power to move forward? Which ones are going to have the most power to move our community forward? And if we accomplish, will give us energy to do next stage of work. When we make these priorities, none of the ideas that are not prioritized are going to be thrown away. Everything is going to be saved in an action plan at the end of this process. And anyone in the community has the power to pick up any of these ideas and run with it and make it happen with a team of other people. So we've seen people out of this conversation have an idea like develop a community arts center, just leave the room and start doing it, okay? We've also seen people do that and build a daycare center. So anything is possible and is within your power. But our job tonight is to go from this big list of a lot of different arenas to say, if we focus our energy in 3 areas by the end of the night, we build task forces to line up, and VCRD brings resource experts, potential funders, other towns that have actually accomplished those things and have the step-by-step process down, will help gear up and move those issues forward, knowing that committees are going to move around, they're going to add to it, they're going to look back at the list as they're successful with one thing, and over time this is an agenda. It's also an agenda that the Planning Commission can look at and that the City Council can be looking at and see, are there pieces in this that are most important and are most pertinent to the work at our table. So this becomes not an official document of city determined priorities, but a community document of things that people care about and that task forces have been formed of residents to move forward. Okay, So in that, yes, please, Jenna.
Really quick. So Nick, folks on Zoom can hear us still? So unfortunately, and again, let's all have patience with the process tonight because this is the first time and maybe last time we'll ever be doing the hybrid model. But the Zoom, folks on Zoom, our screen has frozen again right now. So if you can hear us, just hang tight on there. And we're gonna drop Zoom one more time and then pull it back up, which seemed to work last time. So we should see you in a couple minutes.
So when you look at our schedule and the work that we've got to do tonight, we're at 7:35. And what we'd like to do is to sort of, we're not throwing anything out, but we're saying that we can't do all of these ideas. And in this first round of voting, we're not voting anything off the table. It's going to
So Paul is likely talking about voting. I have the debrief. Hopefully we'll be reconnected shortly, but we have opportunities for you all to vote. Thanks everyone on Zoom for being here.
So we will be able to champion what's most important and go into some more detail about, is this one already moving forward? Does this one really need a task force? Will this one be most powerful in making for change? So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute envelopes. Jenna and Brian, we got to pass out these envelopes, and what we've got in the envelope is 8 dots. And what we will do is you can place all your 8 dots on one item if you choose to. You can put 4 on one item, or you can put individual dots on any number of them that you care about the most. But what you want to do is help the community focus on what are those top 8 for further review and discussion, okay? So in the room, we're going to distribute and then do that vote, and then go back and have a snack, visit with your neighbors. We'll pull them off the wall, we'll take them down cellar, we'll count them, and then we'll bring the top 8 back up to you, okay? And online, there's a whole nother structure happening.
Let me mention something quickly. So again, in the room, you'll have the 8 dots. Actually, online, we're gonna have a survey. It's called a poll unit survey. They're also gonna have 8 virtual dots that they can use on their survey. So we're all voting in the same way. Folks on Zoom, in a moment, Alyssa is going to share a link to a poll unit survey. You'll click that link and open it up, and you can use your 8 dots in any way you'd like. Same as in the room. You could put all 8 on one idea, put 1 on 8 different ideas, or mix it up any way you'd like. And so we're gonna turn the sound off in the room here. If you can't find that link in the chat, don't worry. Alyssa's got some alternative voting models that she's gonna share with you. I was gonna say offline, but online, and then we'll reconnect after we count the votes up and bring you back into the room.
I'm going to start talking and hope I'm not projecting in the auditorium. I don't see them turning their heads, so I think we've made it. Thanks again, Team Zoom. I'm so excited to be here with you all. So we actually have the fun and exciting online voting method. So again, everyone in the room has literal stickers that they're putting on the wall. In just a moment, I'm going to put, it's called Poll Unit. It's our online voting software, into the chat. You're going to be able to click on that. It's going to bring up a list, just like that list that we had on the PowerPoint. Again, you will have 8 votes, 8 dots. You could put all of them on one item, 2 on one, just 1 dot on 8 different items. There is a save and submit item at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat. In some cases, I know there's 2 of you in a household, so we do have an option so that each folks on the Zoom are able to vote. And if you're really having trouble, we also have a phone number you can call into. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link in. So for folks that work, you can start there, but again, hold tight and we will have options for everyone to vote. So going ahead with that link here for the poll unit. Again, I'm here on the video and also on the chat. So if folks have issues. So if you have 2 folks, so again, feel free to go through, click on that. If you're having issues, we have like a 10-minute break, so there will be plenty of time. If you can see, people are all walking around. Awesome, I'm seeing people are able to access the poll, so that's great. So go ahead, make your selections. If you're in a household with 2 people and you have another device, so in addition to, say, a computer, maybe also a phone, one person could also go to the All In for Barre website. To get there, you would type in bit.ly/4FOR Barre. That will bring you to the website. There's also a vote button live on the website there. We also had someone who I think just had one device in their household. In that case, I also have a phone number you can call. Our new executive director, Brian Lowe, is in the odd. He has dots and he will go put dots on a poster for that second person who doesn't have a device. So I'm going to go ahead and put that phone number into the chat now. Again, best choice, if you can make it, just use that first link in there. Again, can also go into the All In for Barre website if you need to get in that way. It's 1 vote per device. And if neither of those work, we've got a phone number, and that phone number is 802-735-3983. I'm going to put that in the chat. I'm going to take a break and stop talking, but feel free to message me in the chat, or after a minute, folks can unmute if you're still having trouble, and we will make sure your votes get counted. So thanks for being here. This is round 1. We'll have round 2 later, but happy voting. Just a quick check-in for Team Zoom. Is anyone having trouble voting? Feel free to just unmute yourself and let me know if we need to get you a call-in number. If you still, again, we still have some time, so no rush, but is anyone having trouble accessing a chat on a device or with a website?
Hi, this is Byrne.
Yes.
My device isn't working, so we did one voting on my computer, but this tablet won't work, so I'm just going to call in.
That's perfect, and I will send a text and let them know to expect you. I'm just going to answer this for the group because others might have questions. So question about who is voting. We say anyone who considers themselves part of the Barre community. So that may mean you're a Barre City resident, but if you live in Barre Town and are really involved in Barre, you're welcome to vote. If you work in Barre City, or again, if you consider yourself a part of that community, you are welcome to vote during this process. There is not a strict residency requirement. Again, it's a question of if you're all in for the Barre community in terms of weighing in for this vote. So thank you to those asking. Right, so they're doing last call in person right now before they go take the pieces of paper off the wall. Is there folks on the Zoom call who are still waiting to vote before we close the online polling? Again, we can wait, we just want to make sure everyone is counted. All right. All right, so seeing none, thank you all for this first round of voting. Again, they're going to total both the online totals, which are actually quick, easy, and instant from the technology, but also those who called in and went to stickers. They're going to go count those now as well. So if you need a quick bathroom break, want to grab a snack because it's now almost 8 o'clock, this is a good time. Hopefully just a couple of minutes, but then we'll be right back. We're going to go from those 23 ideas down to 8 for this next session. And again, there will be a second round of voting. So thank you everyone for sticking around. And again, message me if you have questions. Just a quick update from Zoom land. Again, they are busy counting in person. The sheets have come off the wall. So insert Jeopardy song. Maybe we'll try that for the next meeting. Thank you all for sticking around and we'll keep you updated. Just saying hi again. I think counting all the dots on 23 pieces of paper does take a little bit. So still no updates, but I'll keep you updated as soon as I hear. If anyone wants to, do a solo performance, I'm okay with it. Maybe it'll be piped into the odd, but I think they'd all enjoy it.
I don't need to do a performance, but so how many of these community forum engagements does VRCD do a year, let's say?
I love trivia questions. Thanks for the question. So probably about a handful. We do have a waiting list. In general, it's a process where we only work in communities where we're invited. So a select board or a city council, if they're interested, would send a letter of invitation. We have a committee of stakeholders, folks from across the state, who then look at the recommendations of all the communities we want to work with and think about who's really ready for that process. Again, you're seeing it kind of midway through right now. There's lead up with the local steering committee and then this series of 3 meetings and then follow on support after. That's actually my role. So maybe you all will keep seeing me depending on the priorities that are picked. We offer it free of charge to communities, but communities do pay for a mailing to everyone in the community and for a community meal. I see Jenna running in the odd, I just have to say, so I'm keeping my eyes out they might be getting close to a final vote. But yes, if other communities are interested, they're welcome to get in touch with us. Really, it's just a capacity thing. As you can see, takes a fair amount of staff. So we have them running pretty close together, but I would say probably like 5 to 6 a year, at least as far as I'm aware. There is an archive on the VCRD website, which I'll throw in the chat, which shows the reports from past processes. And again, one will come out from this process.
And I'm just kind of filling time here, so if you need to do something. Is the process, the step that you said you're sort of most involved with, is that then building like collaborative connections between people that have like a specialty or either organizational or personally with the focus that communities end up with? Or does VRCD sort of like provide most of the consult on that?
No, we really rely on the expertise of what we call at the meeting before this, actually a visiting team, which is experts from across the state. So the local steering committee helps decide on the topics that we'll discuss. So the 9 topics that were discussed earlier were decided by a committee of Barre City residents. And then we look at that list of topics and think, who are real thought leaders in the state around this issue? Maybe it's a nonprofit executive director, a state or federal official who could really provide some expertise. And we actually invite them to come on the visit. Then after the voting tonight, we come back to them and say, this is what Barre City voted on as its priorities, and also ask them, what resources do you think could help and help facilitate those connections? So we really have the facilitator convener role, but that does involve connecting with subject matter experts to help support the community.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for filling the time. Really appreciate it. Again, I'll throw the link in if people want to do more reading. And again, happy to answer any other questions.
Folks want to come back in, grab a cookie, grab a drink, come on back in and have a seat, and we'll get started again, okay? So So let's all have a seat and let's come back to a common conversation together. And let me say, there's some things that, that are in this list. In a way, they're embedded more than once. Like there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? And let's think about how a task force would work on any one of these issues, right? That task force is going to, in the next meeting, look at what's already happening, what's already going on in the community around this as an issue. What are some potential starting points for action? What would you do first if you were going to address housing or you were going to address childcare? What are the first steps you'd need to look at? Where would you be able to look to see other places that had done just what you hope to do? What's already happening on the ground? What are the resources? Is there technical assistance regionally that could help Barre do this work? Are there people with expertise? Are there people with money ready to support this kind of work? How do you tee up what you're trying to do in a way that's going to capture attention, capture assistance, and potentially capture significant funds to move forward, if that's necessary to it? So the way we often see people vote is they may not have chosen something that's like they may have had several votes for looking into the access question that someone mentioned. And everyone's listening to that, and people are understanding that almost anything we do, we have to include that understanding. Just like diversity, equity, inclusion has to be included in whatever we do. But in the end, they choose projects that ring to them, that they think will have the most practical drive forward. And then part of the conversation in the community is how do you include all that we've learned together as a community as we're doing the work, right? So these are the ones that made the cut. We have improve and are we online? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Sorry if I turned my back to you. We have improve and expand pedestrian and bike infrastructure citywide. Develop a Barre Community Center. Improve public transportation. Start a Barre Housing Task Force. Improve river access. Improve downtown aesthetics and vibrancy. Advance shared equity and inclusion, what's that last word? Goals and action, and then advance career training and workforce development. So we see this process all the time, and people make wise decisions that lever change. What we're going to do now is spend some time championing what's most important. Of these 8, is there already a working committee working on that? Do they want to say to us, well, we're already working on it. We'd love new volunteers. You don't need to prioritize it. Or please prioritize it and line up to support it because we need all the help we can get. They could go either way. Part of the question that you want to be thinking about as you're championing is this issue actionable? Is it possible to be successful in driving it forward? Is it already being addressed? Is there someone already doing it? Do they need help or not? Is it within your power to pull this off and to push this forward? Which is most important? Which is going to make, in terms of all those vision points, which is going to drive your vision for Barre forward, making it more inclusive, more welcoming, attracting young families, supporting the economy, supporting a strong downtown, all those things that you talked about. Which ones are going to have the most leverage? So we're going to ask you to not debate and not challenge other people's opinions, because we're really just brainstorming to listen to each other, right? And no idea is bad. But which of these ideas is most important? And we're also not going backwards. So if there's something that that isn't on the wall that you think could connect to one of these, and you could say that, but we're not starting a new brainstorm list. We're talking about these 8, and which of these 8 is most important. So we'll do this as we did before with the mic. And then we'll also ask people to champion from the Zoom call. And we'll try to pull this off as smoothly as we possibly can. Is there someone who'd like to start and champion one of the ideas? Yes, ma'am. And why don't you say your name when you start so that people know who you are? Because we all need to get to know each other better.
Okay, my name is Renita Marshall. The first idea I would champion is developing a Barre Community Center. I think it is crucial for our youth to definitely have somewhere. And I know that there was also discussion about seniors. So how could we make a community center that was available to all ages? I think that there's a lot that could be done within a community center. And then the next thing that I would choose is to improve the river access. We have a lot of informal spaces that people are going swimming and hanging out in, and it would be really nice if we could get people to come to Barre because we have actual public river access. So those would be the two that I would choose that I don't believe are currently being worked on, where I think some of the other areas might have people kind of working on them already.
Thank you so much. Other things that you would champion?
I'm Steve McKenzie, City Manager. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but improve and expand the pedestrian bike path. I'm a strong proponent of that, have been working on that for 20 years. But it falls into the category you were saying, is there somebody already working on that? We have a bike path committee, Path Routes and Trails Committee. We could use more members on that committee. It's extremely difficult to advance segments of the bike path. We have been doing it. It's a function of money and so on. But I would say if anybody's interested in that, we have on the agenda for the next meeting, we have a matrix of all the path segments, their status and so on and so forth. One of the goals I have for the next committee meeting is to review that, update it, reassess priorities and whatever. So if somebody's interested in the bike path, it wants to understand what's been going on and where we want to go with it, I would encourage you to join the committee so that we're not redundantly doing something.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a priority, but you could join in that effort if you chose to.
And you can check the website, city website for when the next meeting is. I just don't remember.
Though we're all equal here, so that's the city manager's strong opinion. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ellen Kay, and I am a member of the City of Barre Diversity and Equity Committee. And I'm so glad that that received the amount of support that it did. We can use more members. We can use more people on working groups. We already have introduced an equity impact assessment tool that we are hoping, that the state developed, that we are hoping and promoting to be used in city departments, on city committees, so that people begin to integrate weighing equity issues in everything that they do in the city. So we meet the third Monday of every month, and we already have some people on working groups that aren't appointed members of the committee. So the more people who are working with us, the more we can accomplish a lot of the goals that we're laid
let me
out
ask
there.
you this. If people prioritize this, they would be joining a task force. We would, in between meetings, be communicating with your team, but they would obviously want to have a voice in the direction and the work. They wouldn't just want to follow a committee. And so are you suggesting that that be prioritized and people then sign up to join that task force, and in between we'd work together? Or would you prefer just people to come to you instead of prioritizing it, and if you want new members?
I'm not sure I understand the distinction. First of all, it's not a task force, it's a city appointed committee.
Oh, it's a city appointed
The
committee.
City council.
Okay.
Yeah, appoints to this committee.
Okay, so that's already in
It
existence.
does exist.
Folks could volunteer to work with it. Okay, great to know. Other things that you would prioritize among this list of 8 that you think are the most important on the list?
Okay, to make, Brian, to make a bike path, that could take $1 million. People aren't going to come from other communities to Barre to ride the bike path. It's going to be something Barre residents will use, and that's all. Go to the bicycle place and find out how many bicycles they've sold this year. I mean, that would be a way to value.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so other thoughts? Nick's pointing to the screen, and can you tell me their name, Nick? Elaine. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so I'm Elaine Wong. I'm the chair of the Barre City Energy Committee. And I am happy that Start a Barre Housing Task Force is on here. There are a lot of resources in Barre City, but I think this is a critical issue for a lot of our shared goals here in terms of welcoming new members, in terms of taking care of our current members of the community. And it's actually an enormous opportunity to increase energy efficiency of the housing stock. So I feel like there's a huge need in Vermont-wide and in Barre City for better housing and more housing, and I feel like it's a good way to get there.
Thank you so much for that championing. Other things that you would champion?
Hi, I'm Eva Zaret. I'm the coordinator of a county-wide coalition on substance use. Many of our organization members are here today. And we strongly recommend or strongly are in favor of prioritizing an initiative that would help support youth development in a way that's healthy and give some alternatives to substance use. So developing a Barre Community Center is a priority that we recommend.
Thank you so much. Other things you would prioritize?
I'd like to also join in favor of Jeanette. I'd like to speak in support of the Barre Community Center as well, because it would serve youth, also seniors, and could also offer after-school programming as well. I would like us to think about, when we're prioritizing the career training, and see what the state is already doing, especially with all the federal money, the ARPA money coming now, and maybe that is something we wouldn't have to prioritize.
Okay. Yes, Nick? Karen Hatcher, you have the floor.
Thank you. I do want to speak about advancing career training and workforce development, because as we think about housing and we think about revitalization and all of that, what we're suffering from is a severe workforce shortage. We've got plenty of money coming in to build housing, to rehab houses, but we have a severe shortage of people who are skilled to do those jobs. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to get involved in creating a pipeline, if you will, from high school, technical school, into apprenticeships and internships and that kind of thing, to develop a flow. And it would also help us to attract people, young people, to come here, work here, build a life here, if we had incentives for folks around workforce.
Thank you, Karen. And Karen, a team of people in the community could form to drive that work forward?
I think so.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And William and Sharon, I think it might be.
It's just William here.
Okay,
and what I would be, I looked at that idea of improved river access, and that was not something I had even thought of doing, but I think that that would be something that would be a wonderful thing for the city of Barre to do, because there really isn't anywhere within quite a distance where there's really, well, we do have our pool, but for river access or access to water. I also think that the advanced career training and workforce development is certainly an important thing for us to do.
Thank you very much. It's interesting to imagine a string of green spaces on different spots on the river. Beth Rose. Oh, sorry, Byrne Rose.
That's Byrne. And I live in Barre City. I really like the advanced career training and workforce development. I like to see life skills built into that as well. I think a lot of people don't have the basic life skills they need to do career training and workforce development. And the second to that would be a community center, which includes daycare, because without adequate daycare, that workforce isn't going to be able to get on the job or to get to training.
Thank you, Byrne.
And of course,
you're crackling. Vern, I think you just get 2, but thank you very much. You're crackling a little bit. But the second one being the community center that could include daycare. So in a way, when that other one fell away, maybe people were thinking the community center was a more comprehensive way to advance that in other directions. Others? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Erica Rail. I'm not sure which hat I'm wearing tonight, so let's go with City Councilor of Ward 3. I think I would really pull for the diversity and equity, because if we look at the history of Barre, it really falls on diversity and equity. And we can't have the other task force without diversity and equity. We can't really build advanced shared early education inclusion without diversity and equity. We can't advance career training without diversity and equity. And we can't improve public transportation without diversity and equity. It falls under so many categories. So I really believe we should really bump that one up because it falls under so many things that we're talking about tonight and the history of Barre.
Thank you so much. Sir? Yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to advocate for the improved river access. I think that as we head into climate change and we really need to embrace our environment more directly and look for economic opportunities from it, but also educational opportunities and recreational opportunities. I think that it's an important part of the identity of our city and town, and that we should be relating it more directly since we are on Abenaki land.
Thank you so much. I'll go to one more person here and I'll look to Nick if there's someone else online.
Yeah, I'd like to second what Patty was saying. I love all these ideas and this is amazing, but the improved river access to me seems like an actionable, doable project that could involve all ages and talk about the environment, even talk about if we're talking about a route that ties in with bicycle transportation. It just to me, it envelops so many things that we're talking about, identity, and we could wrap it all up in a project that we could actually work on and point to as something that we've accomplished through this process.
Thank you so much. Let me just read them all again in case someone can't see them from where they sit. Advanced career training and workforce development, advanced shared equity and inclusion goals and action, improve downtown aesthetics and vibrancy, improve river access, start a Barre housing task force, improve public transportation, develop a Barre community center, improve and expand pedestrian and bike infrastructure citywide. And remember that they include the paragraphs, everything in the paragraph that was written at the beginning, as well as the concepts that were added in, like ensure that you're looking at disabilities when you're looking at equity and inclusion, and when you're looking at access and so forth in the downtown. Yes, Nick. Who is it? Amy, please take the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak in favor of the community center. I think in terms of something concrete that can be done in the span of a couple of years, that would be something that could be accomplished in a couple of years and then could last a long time after that. And I think a lot of the other goals might be able to be built into that. I like the career training and workforce development idea. If that doesn't last standing on its own, then maybe at least that could become part of the community center. And I'm not sure if the community center would be something that would take place in an existing building or if it would be a separate building, but I think there's a lot of different ways to accomplish that in a short number of years.
Right, and it's something that could encompass a lot of things you're saying. Thank you. Jackie, please take the floor.
Yes, I'd like to advocate for the Start a Barre Housing Task Force. I think so much money is going to be coming down from the state and federal government in the next couple of years that this would be a good public entity to help us decide how to spend a lot of money.
Right, so you gear up with the task force, you're ready to be a squeaky wheel for some of those dollars.
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I would echo that the need for a housing task force. In particular, I think there could be more unity between landlords and tenants, that it's not an us versus them. There's a lack of affordability and a lack of options that could be addressed.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. Teddy Wazazak, Ward 2 City Councilor. I would just, the city manager is absolutely right that we do have a bike path committee and path routes and trails. But I think the question of pedestrian infrastructure throughout the whole city is a bit of a bigger issue. So I would absolutely advocate for that to be included in the final three.
Okay, thank you. Other things that people would like to prioritize?
Hi, everyone. My name is Becca, and I'm here serving through AmeriCorps. I just want to voice my support specifically to advance the shared equity and inclusion. Marginalized and discriminated against groups in Barre have been consistently advocating for better recognition, training, funding, and support. And I think we would be remiss and very disrespectful if we continued to pass that over again in this forum.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Danielle Ozarski. I'm also a watershed planner, so I'm really into the improved river access. And we did a cleanup last weekend, and the river's kind of hidden in Barre. You don't really see it unless you're crossing the bridges. And I think that having improved access helps us to see the river, which makes us want to care more for the river. And it also gives people access to cooling water. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the temperatures have been getting pretty high. And it's quite a drive to get to the pool. So it'd be nice to be able to have access for folks thinking about equity and inclusion. And I also serve on the Diversity and Equity Committee as well. So I'd like to see that folks working on that too.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Now that I understand this process a little better, when I first spoke, I want to just, I didn't quite get it. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is like what I think all of this can add to, but the committee that exists needs a budget. You can't, I want the city to really commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'd like us to hold it as a priority among the very few.
Okay. Holding it as a priority doesn't necessarily make it a budget item, but it would have a stronger group potentially supporting it. Yes, who's? Rosemary, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening. Rosemary Averill, Barre City resident. Apparently I'm alone in the let's making our downtown vibrant and focus on economic development. We can all go by the river. We can all do these wonderful task force, don't get me wrong, and ideas. But at some point, we have to refocus on making the downtown, effective for our town. I like the community center idea. I think we need to help our youth a lot. No question there, and seniors perhaps. And the career training is great too. But I think we really have to focus on our city as being vibrant again. And it's been a long, long time. So I hope there'll be some focus on that.
Thank you so much. And then is it Joanne? Joanne
Yes.
Reynolds.
So I'm with Teddy. The walking infrastructure and the ability to make safety a really priority for pedestrians in this city is important. And I also agree with the last speaker that we need to reinvigorate.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks to the ECRD team for being here. I think two items that I would advocate for tonight, and one is the housing task force. I think there's this sense in the community that there's some demographic change. People are concerned about gentrification, new people coming in, and what that means. At the same time, we're losing population. There are other people that I've heard get fed up with Barre and leave. And so I think there's all these shifts that are happening where we need to have a focus on that. And even though there are elements that are already being focused on, including housing. There's this infusion of unprecedented money in housing investment. And it seems like it's a tremendous opportunity for the city to come together and build some consensus about what is our housing future, and how do we create opportunities. The other thing that I would advocate for is pedestrian and bike infrastructure, and even tacking on transit to that. And to Rosemary's point on Zoom, some of the most vibrant places are places where people get out of their cars and are out walking and biking and moving around and connecting with each other. And I just think that's an important thing. And although we're already working on it, it's something that I think if we really put a lot of focus on, it could help with diversity, equity, inclusion. It could help with I'm totally blanking. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. No, thank you very much. And it's useful to have folks on city council express their thinking. You know, obviously there is a Barre partnership. There's work going on around community and economic development. And it's important to recognize that good work is already happening. And also to say, is that something that would benefit by a community committee forming, or is it something that there's already a board working on and aggressively acting on, which might be a priority anyway, and might be something you'd want a task force forming on anyway, but just to inform the public about that. So if anyone wants to speak to those issues, or if anyone simply wants to champion what's most important to them, who would like to go next? Mayor.
So Mayor Lucas Herring, for those that don't know me, what I can say is there is some effort within the city on all of those topics that are currently on the board. So I think it's great that those topics are up there. I also think that when you look at the full list, you can see where a number of these items can fit under the other ones. So as we vote, it's really not that it's going to be any of this will go away. It's really just saying where your focus is. So I'm not going to, give my sway one way or another, because I do know that we're doing this work already. And we just need really more commitment from the community to come out and support these to make it happen. So I'm just looking forward to the vote at the end.
Other folks have a priority that they want to champion from the list of 8 that are on the table. Which one would you prioritize, sir?
I can't really hear what people are saying, but okay. I lost 40 pounds on a bicycle riding around town and riding to Montpelier. You can get around on a bicycle. You don't need a bike path. And is that bike path they're now making, is that bringing the neighboring neighbors into Barre? No, they don't.
Yeah. So we're just asking you to champion what's most important to you.
A grocery or a community event, a community center. That way people can express themselves. I mean, have that kind of the ingredient of the center rather than coffee and donuts.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. And online we have Christina.
I'm very shocked about that no one has, or at least that I could hear, championed public transportation. It's a foundation. I'm leaving the state over this, and I've struggled with this for 14 months. Imagine, and as you get older, and I'm 52, you will run across people in your lives that just for whatever reason can't drive anymore. For me, it was visual on top of COVID anxiety, and it just reached a tipping point where I'm too scared to drive. I'm heard something about this community support, and Barre's my hometown, and I thought there was community support, and wow, it really hasn't come out for me.
Well, I think it sounds like you're championing it, and maybe others will too. So thank you so much for putting that in the pool of ideas here. Be glad to hear other people's thoughts and championing. We have another person online, Bob Purvis. Thank you, Bob. You're muted, I think.
Thank you.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
I want to make another pitch for the community center because while a number of the other priorities can be incorporated within the community center can't be incorporated in anything else. You know, if you, and so it really needs its focus just to exist.
Okay, community center needs to be focused on just for it to exist, but it could encompass so many of the other ideas on the table. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, your priority.
I was actually going to chime in also about public transportation as well. And in the forum earlier in August, they had mentioned that My Ride would start being offered here in Barre, possibly as a pilot program. So, I mean, for those who are thinking of leaving due to lack of access to public transportation, safe, access, that is something that should be coming up. I think, I don't know if the council can speak on that, or if it's definitely going to happen, or if anyone here knows if it's definitely going to happen. But
that's a priority.
it's a huge priority, and maybe more covered areas as well for people who are waiting, because we have to wait about 30 minutes in between each bus, and it should be more frequency as well, because you have elderly out, in the rain, the cold, people that are disabled not being able to get onto the bus like for prolonged periods of times.
Thank you for sharing that. Other priorities? Yes, ma'am. We should make a movie out of this. I appreciate everyone's patience. This is a kind of it's COVID jury rigging.
I'd also like to be a champion for the transportation improvements. I think that we need more shorter routes so that people don't have to be on it for such long loops. I think that improved transportation, particularly between Barre City and Barre Town, would allow people to get up to Industrial Park. And I think an improved local transportation system with the student pass would solve a lot of our busing problems to school, where we don't have sidewalks, and getting kids down to school where they could just get on a transportation loop. Additionally, there's a lot of need and discussion in the community about a bus that goes to Burlington for commuters.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other priorities that you would make?
I'd just like to mention that there is a Barre Senior Center, or at least that's what it's called, on South Main Street. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Okay. Other things that you would prioritize? Anyone else online with their hand up? Is there any of these things that are being done or in contemplation that may be less important to start a new task force around? Or are there some that having a new task force would really bring into focus, would really gear people, would potentially rally volunteers beyond this room, would potentially rally support, assistance, and funding to drive it forward at this period in American history when there will be resources available to communities to do big things?
So I would just say about community centers, my skepticism with them are always, when someone says community center, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I like the idea of a task force coming out of this for a community center. So that way the whole community can have input on what they eventually do want out of the building.
Really, it's a design committee and an engagement committee to say, what does this mean? What does it look like? How would we do it? How would we fund it? What are other places like with community centers? And we would obviously come back and help build a game plan next month if a task force geared up on that question. Elaine, you have the floor.
Yes, thanks, Paul. So I just want to mention, if public transportation does not end up being one of the top task forces, I do encourage everyone, any of you who feel let down by that, to get in touch with me, because there are, I'd be happy to welcome more people working on that, but also there is another opportunity. There is that opportunity that the speaker in the room spoke to, My Right, and maybe we can add some momentum to get that into Barre. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Other priorities that you would like to make? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lisa Leota, and I would like to advocate for starting a Barre Housing Task Force, because housing is such a basic need. And it's really important that residents have their basic needs met so that they can participate and use all of these other things that are priorities here. I also wanted to say, I don't read this description to mean just tenants and landlords. It also addresses home ownership and home repairs. And we have such an aging housing stock that maintaining that and having safe places for people to live is really a key important thing for me.
Thank you so much. Oh, Christina is online. Thank you, Christina.
Hi, further comment on my ride. If this is my understanding that this is a GMT project, my experience with Green Mountain Transit, including as late as tonight, they have some very serious problems, including not answering the phone. I received half a robocall, which literally sets me up for a one-way ride from Hannaford to Barre. Now, how do I get to food if the other half isn't included? This is not uncommon.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying that if we're just, saying, well, we'll just have GMT fix it. We need to fix Green Mountain Transit.
Okay, so if it was a committee and you were on it, you'd be able to work on that as an issue and bring that to the committee. So prioritizing that would be your key priority. So thank you for that. Yes, please. We're going to go into we've got just a couple more minutes. So we're going to ask for your brief responses on key priorities that you would advocate. This is your opportunity. This whole thing is your opportunity to engage other people's votes.
So I told you what my priorities were already. So my only statement that I'm going to make is if the priority that you feel is most important does not get chosen, please take a look at the city committees, see if someone is working on what you're talking about and get in touch with them. Even if you can't participate as a member of the committee, sit in on one, listen in on one, contact members of that committee, get them your opinions and keep pushing them to get it done.
Yeah, nothing ends here. Thank you, sir.
A tour center in Barre. Okay, the river would be good, but 6 months of the year. That would show a lot of character going down the river, you can see. But a tour of the granite town.
Yeah, so that was an idea that was in an earlier edition of this. It may be embedded in some of the potential work here. Mayor, did you want to share a comment?
Toward the end of this, and it ends up being that there's 4 instead of 3. I know that we said 3 at the beginning of this, but if there ends up being there's only a couple of dots on some and we see 4 major projects, is that something that this group can also say that they would like to see 4 rather than 3?
We've seen ties. Renita, the overall chair of this process, will be in the room and will help us evaluate if there's a close situation like that. And she will be able to make a judgment call either to bring a question back to the community or it may be simple enough to just say, oh, this is obvious. So we will certainly have an open mind. All that said, does anyone have a last thing that they would like to prioritize before we go to that vote? And we'll explain the vote in a sec.
I would like to say, I would like to probably pick the Barre Housing Task Force, which is important, like everyone has mentioned, and the public transportation. I'd be happy to be part of the public transportation task force because that just means a little bit something special to me. So my name is Carrie Kelly. So if you're ever looking for me, I'm more than happy to participate. And also, I do really like the idea of having the river access and having a trail, like someone else had mentioned, around the water, much like Mount Pelier does, and it sort of celebrates the water, gets people involved, people can walk dogs there, people can run, not just bike. So it would be a nice thing.
Great, thank you. Any last priorities? Yes, ma'am, you get the last word. It's going to be decisive.
I am advocating for improving the downtown, whatever it's written up there, the aesthetics and vibrancy in that. If you go to Montpelier and it's always busy downtown, even on Sundays. You go to Barre, there's nothing on Sundays. There's very little on Saturdays. We need to have activities. We don't need empty buildings. We need to have things that people will do and be attracted to come to the downtown.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we've got these 8 issues. Advanced career training and workforce development, advanced shared equity, inclusion, goals and action, improve downtown aesthetics and vibrancy, improve river access, start a Barre housing task force, improve public transportation, develop a Barre community center, improve and expand pedestrian and bike infrastructure citywide. And think about this as your vote. You're not voting for the city to do this. You're saying that as community members, this is important work that needs to be driven by the community. So don't vote for something that you wouldn't want to move forward, that you wouldn't want to contribute to, that you might want to be on a committee for, something that you care about, that would be fun to do, enjoyable, build momentum, build a joy in Barre. If it doesn't do those things, it's probably not going to happen either. So you're voting partly with your mind in terms of what's going to work, but you're also voting with your heart in terms of what you want to be on the line for the future and engage the whole Barre community to move forward, okay? So with that, this time you have 3. Yes.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so yes, this time we have 3. So you're gonna have 3 blue, folks in the room, you'll have 3 blue dots in your hand. Same process as before. You could put all 3 on one idea. You could put 3 on your 3 top ideas. However you want to weight your votes is up to you. So we'll hand out, why don't we go ahead and start handing out the dots to folks in the room? And same process for the folks online as well. So Alyssa is going to put a link in the chat for the poll unit survey, updated with the 8 ideas that are on the wall in the room here. So you'll click on that link, go in, and you'll also have 3 virtual dots, but we'll turn the sound off on the computer here so Alyssa can share some of those alternative ways to vote if you're having trouble getting the link as well. So once you have your dots, go ahead. And we'll, once voting is done, we'll pull the sheets again into the room, hang out, have a snack, and then we'll be back quickly to share the results. Thanks.
Again, hopefully I'm not projecting in the room, but as Jenna already summarized, it's going to be that same exact voting process. So I've got the link here to go into the chat. It seemed like most folks were able to do that last time, but again, we will also have it updated on the Barre website and have that phone call option. So I'll start with the link in the chat and then we'll go through those other options as well. And just a friendly reminder, there is that save and submit at the bottom, but feel free to take your time. The digital voting goes much quicker because you don't have to, move around a room. So again, option to divvy up your 3 virtual dots, however you feel is best. Once again, just a quick, if you're in a household with 2 devices, you can go back to that bit.ly/4 Barre website. That also will have an updated survey. So I will put that there. And then that final option is the call in number. And that number is 802-735-3983. Again, we'll also put that in the chat, give folks a couple minutes to keep voting, and then also see if anyone's having issues. Again, feel free to message me. And I think we will probably have another bit of an interlude, maybe for dessert this time, before we have the big final reveal of the top 3 priorities. So thank you. Just checking in again quickly. Is anyone having trouble voting? Needs help calling in or anything else? Please feel free to just go ahead and unmute yourself and we can get that sorted out. I got the 1-minute warning for anyone on Zoom. So if you are voting online, please get those finalized and do that save and submit in the next minute so that your vote can count. Anyone has a problem, feel free to unmute and holler. All right, if you could see on the All In for Barre screen, Jenna has taken the sheets off the wall. So again, we're at our counting interlude. Thanks for sticking around and excited to see what the final 3 turn out to be.
Alyssa, while we're reading, I just want to say thank you. You've done a wonderful job tonight. You do a lot of Zoom meetings. This was like clockwork. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a lot of people deserve credit. I know Jenna will do some thank yous at the end. CCTV was great for making this all happen, but thank you for the kind words. And thank you all for being here again.
Say it's just wonderful to be able to sit in my home and do this. So I really appreciate after a long day being able to just participate comfortably. So thank you.
And thank you all for the feedback. I think it's definitely something we're learning as an organization. So it's really great to hear from folks and think about how we integrate that into the work moving forward. I saw Margaret just speeding across my screen, and she's usually the one who finalizes things. So stay tuned, and I will just tease that the last piece is a sign up. Oh, thank you for the correction in the chat, CCTV, the public access station. But yes, as I said, defer to Jenna's thanks, and momentarily I'm going to stop talking before I'm projected, but thank you all. CVTV. I said it wrong again after I read the correction.
Okay, folks, can everyone come back in? We'll form a single group again. Folks online, we're just about there. Could you folks up front grab your seats, please? Everybody pull in. Okay. Could I ask everyone in the back to settle in too? All right, so remember, the first thing is nothing is lost. All the ideas are important. An idea that didn't get prioritized, it doesn't mean that it didn't convince people and that people don't care about it. You don't have opponents. It means that people thought strategically about the things that were best to concentrate at, knowing that the other issues like workforce, which wasn't one of the final ones, is a thread that's going to come through everything in the future of this community. Just as energy development and things like that were on the earlier list will, just as children are important in everything. But in the end, you set 3 clear priorities for action. And the three priorities are to develop a Barre Community Center, to build a task force to work on improving river access, to start a Barre housing task force. So we've seen this process 80 times. We've seen 20,000 people engage in this work. We've seen people say, we're going to build a community center and do it. We've seen that happen all over the place. We've seen Manchester, St. Johnsbury, lots of towns. We know what Burlington did when they turned back to the lake. They renewed that incredible resource. The string of pearls, the emerald beauty of spots on that river, even connected and in between industrial buildings from the granite industry. Incredibly rich opportunities to turn what is community waste space into really dynamic places. A lot of people were talking about events and activities. What a cool place to have events and activities as you turn back to the river. Barre Housing Task Force. You know, you have the workforce challenge, and maybe that's something that people will be working on. You certainly have a good school. You have people who are interested in that in the community. And you have lots of affordable housing now. Young families are moving to Barre now. How do you support and sustain people who are moving here? Deal with all of these issues in line with equity and justice issues. It's really important that that was one of the first round. And I think when people say things like, that's embedded in all of these, I think everyone gets that that's the future, and you need to look at those issues. So housing is an equity issue, and river access is a community equity issue that engages with issues connected to everything from the disabled community to seniors and children? And how do you do these things in ways that benefit the whole community? So we're in the back room. We've seen this stuff so many times, but there's nothing cynical about the way that we look at this, because we know that you have the power to do these things. And it's extremely exciting to us to see great priorities come out of a process like this. And we're not half done, right? So we're on with our agenda. Jenna's going to describe what comes next.
All right, thanks, Paul. I'm going to take this off again. So congratulations, 3 great priorities. So let me just give you a review of next steps and also how folks online can engage in the next steps as well. So right now, Margaret and Nick set up a table on your way out there. On both sides, you've got sign-in sheets for all 3 of those priorities. And we'd encourage you, if you're willing, if you're interested, if you have any energy or time to lend, to sign up and be a part of one of these going forward. For folks online, we have a Google form that's a task force sign-in sheet. Anyone online, if you want to stay in touch with the process, go ahead and use that form to give us your name and email so we can tell you updates as we go. You don't have to sign up for a task force when you're in there, but if you're willing and interested, we'd encourage you to sign up, and we'll follow up with next steps from there. So from here, we're going to work with Renita to look at, who are folks that could chair these groups and could help to move things forward. We're going to look at the 3 priorities and think about who are the folks in the state, federal leaders, state leaders, business, nonprofit leaders who could come with us on October 20th at that next meeting, 6:30 to 9 as well, to sit with these new task forces and think about what are the first action steps that we need to take. So we want to now go from these paragraph descriptions of ideas to the concrete action plan. So we'll think with you all about what comes next in terms of the next 5 things you would do to get to work. And then also, what are the resources out there? Who are the people that could support you in taking on this work? Where are their funding resources? We'll also maybe bring leaders from other communities who have accomplished this work and can share their experience too. So that'll all be on October 20th. Once that's complete, we're going to pull all of this together into a final action plan for Barre. So you'd see some examples on the table over there of reports in past communities. That's really meant to be kind of a guide for the next steps going forward. All the notes that went into compiling these ideas, it's all in there. All the ideas that were on the wall tonight are in there. Your priorities, the action plans you'll develop, and also the contact info for all of the visiting team members that came last month, and then all the resource team members that'll come as well. So we want to make sure that as we leave Barre, we're not just leaving you with a set of ideas, we're leaving with the resources that you'll need to get those things done. So look for an email from us about please sign up, and then look for an email from us in terms of that October 20th meeting. I do want to just say a couple of thank yous as we close out the night. I want to thank Mayor Herring and the City Council for inviting this process. We only work where we're invited by leadership, and so we really appreciate that trust and inviting us in to help facilitate the process. Renita for stepping up as a chair in this work, and we'll give Renita the last word tonight as well. CVTV, Tony and Ethan, we can't do this. We did this because of them and Ethan's expertise in pulling it together. So thank you for all that work. And all of you, it's been a really challenging time that we've all been experiencing over the last couple of years, and to take this time on Zoom, in person, to step up, to come out, to think about the future, about what's next for your community. It's pretty incredible. So thank you so much for taking that time. And Paul, 1 second. You all have only really gotten to know Paul over the last couple of months, or maybe even tonight, but I've worked with Paul for 7 years, and this is his last meeting as a community visit, and just an honor to work with you, and thank you so much for all that you've done in Barre, in all communities of business. Thank you. And hand it over to Paul.
Okay, so, but the brains of the outfit, let's have a round for Jenna, who really led and pulled this together. Margaret, who's the backbone and leader of all our internal work in the organization, does tremendous stuff for us. Nick, who's just instrumental in everything, carries an enormous workload and led in a lot of the development here. Alyssa, who's online, I don't know, she could wave. She's over on that side, who's leading the logistics on that and will be really useful in following up with Barry. She's a grant writing expert that will lend her talents to support the directions that you all have set. And then Brian Lowe, our new executive director, is with us. This is his first night out. And we really appreciate Brian. He's going to take it to another level. So really appreciate him being here with us. The last thing I just say, like Ted Brady said the other day, when Paul Costello talks, we could do a bingo game because he's going to say, democracy is an experiment. Tonight, this is the center of world democracy. It's not happening in Washington, D.C. No one's coming to Barre. It's you all who drive the future of this community. The priorities you set, the work you do to line up around those priorities, that's what makes things happen. We will get people here next month who are the leading people who control dollars for housing in the state of Vermont. But money doesn't follow from them. Money follows from leadership on the ground that set direction and call for it, demand it for moving projects forward. And you have all the power. So look forward to the next stage of it. It's a great honor to be with people who stand up for their future, especially in this incredibly chaotic time. And you've been patient and you've stuck with this process with all the echo and all the chaos of trying to do this multiplicity. So great on you. Thanks a million for being here, and onward and upward. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and it goes to Renita for the last one.
So the first thing I need to say is I can't believe that this community took 30 pages of comments and turned them into 3. You never, ever cease to amaze me. Whenever anything needs to get done, we always come together. The second thing I want to say is that I'm not just here as the chair of the steering committee. I am also a resident of Barre City. I also am the founder of a nonprofit that supports families with children. I've raised my family here. My children have settled here. I have no intention of going anywhere. So this is very important to me. Again, I want to stress to you that if an issue didn't make your top 3, please check and see what city committees have spaces available. And if you can't be on a committee, at least reach out to those committees. I thank you all. This has been a long process between having to do everything virtually. I thank VCRD. I thank Steve McKenzie for everything, and I'm going to hate that he is leaving us. Not until July. He's been stressing that. So thank you, everyone. Again, I look forward to seeing you in the next step, and please remember to make sure to sign up for the groups that you find are most important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alyssa, are we voting?